Hey guys, welcome back to another podcast here of the Four Pillars. My name is Monico Perez, and I'm joined by my business partner, best friend, Mr. Marc And I actually wanted to dive into 2024, brand new year. Everyone's like, this is the year I'm going to make it. I'm going to crank it out. I'm all in. I'm all in 100%, 110%. And you see all the influencer posts, you see all the quotes, you see all that stuff. But I mean, in all honesty, it kind of starts fading out on those people that say that they're all in. So what does it really, in your coaching and the people you've come across, what does it really mean, or what could you tell the audience as far as being all in?
Great topic, brother. So First of all, as we're filming this, it's Groundhog Day. It's February 2nd, right? So, it's a trip. I just was at the gym yesterday, and, I go to the gym all the time. I know you do too.
Yeah.
And I was just looking around. I'm going, oh, cool. Easy to get a locker. My machine is available that I do my cardio on. And, in the beginning of January, it wasn't. The gym is mobbed. So here in America, at least, over 100 million people go on a diet, make a New Year's resolution, are going to get in better shape. So gyms are mobbed. And it was just so funny that 30 days later, now why is that? And I think it's a lot of people get into it and they don't look long term. They look very short term.
Right.
So they spent 25 years eating badly, getting out of shape, and now they expect to go to a gym for 2 weeks and look like someone on a cover of Muscle and Fitness. And it obviously doesn't work that way.
Right.
So, all in, first of all, is a long-term thing. It's not a short commitment. So this is the way I was taught the concept of all in. My mentor talked to a bunch of us. It wasn't just to me. And he goes, look, the average person works for 40 years, from about 25 to about 65.
Right.
And, back then, there was this term that millennials and people younger than them won't even know. There was this thing called a pension. You would work for 40 years, so you got a pension from your company, meaning that when you retired, you got payment for the rest of your life that would be about 50% of what you used to make in your salary.
Right.
And that's what everyone was going for. And he goes, so you're going to work for 40 years so you can get half of what you're used to living on? That doesn't even make sense. But the other part is most people, because they find out that no matter how hard they work, they're probably never going to find that corporate ladder everyone talks about. And if they find that, they're not going to climb very high. So people put in an average effort. They put in effort, but it's sporadic, and at the end of all of it, here's what he pitched this on. He said, look, what if you took those 40 years worth of energy and compressed them into 5 years?
Right.
He goes, now, that means you're not taking a lot of days off.
Yeah.
That means you're working overtime pretty much every single day.
Yeah.
It means you're probably not going to the gym on a regular basis. You're sure not playing golf on a regular basis. You're sacrificing a lot of the things that a typical employee has a more balanced life. They look forward to their weekends. Thank God it's Friday when they're done. So, and again, that's not to make fun of anyone, but you're asking me what it looks like to be all in. Right. So for me, when I went all in, I bought into go to work for 5 years, and then you won't have to work anywhere near that hard for the rest of your life.
Right.
Now, I was 27 years old. I was living in a one-room apartment, driving a bashed-in car because I couldn't afford the deductible in my insurance policy. So I'm like, well, if I can be rich in 5 years following the system, I'm in.
Yeah.
And I did. I worked like a lunatic. That was before I met you. You met me in my more relaxed days, although, a lot of people still think I'm a workaholic.
Yeah.
But
well, it was, for me, I did come from that, working 8 to 5 or 9, 9 to 6, whatever. But I was part of that where I was excited because I had a cubicle, and it actually, towards the back of it, I had a window. So I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. And I had my own, an office. And then later on I moved up. They gave me my own office. So, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this is it. Like, this is what this is what everyone tells you to do. And, whenever I met you, it was kind of like it was a shift, because as far as like work wise, it wasn't 8 to 5. We would put in, sometimes it'd be 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Sometimes it'd be like, hey, I'll finish it up, come back at 6 or 7 and then we'll figure it out. But it was just a way different type of mentality and a way different, work ethic. But the rewards are two completely different things.
Well, it really is, and I remember those, especially early in the days when we had our old office and we were working usually on View from the Edge stuff, and we'd be doing videos. Remember that one time it was about 3 a.m, you, me, and Ben, our video, and we were so exhausted that Ben put on Dave Chappelle's show, and we sat there like idiots and watched Dave Chappelle for about an hour instead of we were supposed to watch for 10 minutes. But anyway, I mean, and that's to the point I'm trying to make. You can have a lot of fun while you're all in.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like being all in is like you're going to a prison camp.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I look back at those 5 years that and it wasn't 5 years, to be real with you. It was more like 8 years, 9 years that I worked with my mentor and had that all in, all the time mindset. And, we had a lot of fun, but we were also doing something. I think if people don't have something they're passionate about, then the idea of going all in seems ridiculous to them.
Yeah, like, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, why would you do that? But if you have something that you're really passionate about, the idea is, it just, here's another thing I got from a mentor over the years. It's like, think about, again, this is all the programming we receive, from whatever, school, mom, dad. So right now you have your 2 daughters are in grade school, right? Middle school. And, if they come back with the report card and they're getting an A in this, an A in that, an A in this, a B in this, a B in that, and then a C in this and a C in that, most parents, our knee jerk is to go, hey, you need to get those C's up. You need to work on what your weaknesses are. My mentor said, the guy who trained him said, totally different philosophy. The 3 things you're getting an A in, which one of them are you best at? Yeah. Great. Then if you're best in science, spend all day doing science, because eventually, who wants to hire someone who's okay at everything? Yeah. On the other hand, how many of you would like to hire someone who's a savant in one area? Right. And it's just such a different way of thinking. But again, we're all taught to be a jack, if you will, of all trades and a master of none, where if you say, this is the one thing, I'm just going to go into it. I'm just going to go after it. So again, that to me is all in. This is all you focus on. Now that goes again, I know we talked on one of the earlier podcasts about having multiple streams of income. Right. So I want to go back to this. It's like, I have a friend right now, I'm not going to say who, but someone I'm associated with work. He's a very wealthy man. He's one of my clients. And, he works really hard at his core business, but he owns or has partial ownership in 4 or 5 other businesses. You know what I mean? But all of those businesses came from him having his head down for well more than a decade in his primary business. Right. So if you're out there and you're trying to really make something happen, I got to tell you, to reiterate what we said before, have one focus. Right. Be all in. All in means, you're all in. I mean, look at all the greatest athletes of all time. How many of them, and I can name them, put them on one hand, could play 2 professional sports at an elite level?
Michael Jordan. I mean, when you look at Michael Jordan, amazing basketball. Then he tried baseball.
He was not good at baseball, and I'm as big of a Michael Jordan fan on earth. He to me is the best by 100 miles. I don't even want to talk about it in basketball. But he couldn't play at a major league level in baseball. Right. The only 2 that I know of, and there's been others, but Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders both played professional football and professional baseball at a very high level. Yeah. That's out of everybody. Right. And even if we pause for a minute and say, what would have happened If Bo Jackson only played baseball or only played football, same thing with Deion Sanders, the odds are they would have been better than they were if it was their number one singular focus.
Yeah.
So, my whole deal is just pick one thing and be really, 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 really great at it. Give it everything, your full effort to everything you've got.
Well, and it goes back to also that quote or that saying that if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Find something that you love, whether it's, for me initially, right out of school, it was music. I loved music. Like in the mornings, I'd be, 6 a.m. I would not have a problem waking up at 6 a.m., being on the field because we were, practicing our marching drums and all that stuff. After school, I'd come back, and then my dad would go and drop me off at a place to go and rehearse with my band. So now I'd be doing, but again, I loved it and I was passionate about it. So yeah, I mean, it goes back to that, what you're saying, like be all in something that you love, love to do, that you're passionate in.
Yeah, I remember you made me think of years ago, we, in the company I was in, we used to do a lot of golf tennis tournaments for charities. And at this one event that the Bridges family was doing, Jeff Bridges and his dad, I got a chance to meet a young lady named Tracy Austin, who I was a big fan of, and some of you may be a little too young to know her. She, I think 16 years old, won Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. I mean, she won somewhere around 7 or 8 Grand Slam tennis tournaments, so she was a true champion. And I met Tracy when she was probably in her mid-30s, maybe 40. And we got a chance to chat at lunch, and she was explaining what her life was like when she was a world champion.
Right.
She got up early in the morning, much earlier than she would if she was just going to school, and she went and played tennis for 2 hours, went to school, came back and played tennis for a bunch of time, did her homework, went to bed. No proms, no date nights. Every weekend she was on the road traveling to a different tennis tournament.
Yeah.
So her whole life, she didn't have a quote unquote normal life.
Right.
And that's what people don't seem to understand. It's like pick one or the other. Do you want a normal life or do you want an abnormal life? Mm-hmm. Because Michael Jordan's life is abnormal. Bill Gates' life is abnormal. Stephen Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, you could go through and name them all. Anyone who achieves at a super high level, that is not normal. Yeah. So you just have to really make up your mind, what are you chasing? You know what I mean? And I can tell you, I remember my life, I think it was Pearl Bailey said, I've tried it broke and I've tried it poor and I like, I'm sorry, tried it rich, tried it poor, and I like rich better. Yeah. But forget about rich and poor. It's like, I remember having no drive, no ambition, being average. And then I remember finding this and having the blessing of my mentor to coach me and teach me and show me this different way of looking at life. And I mean, it was just different. Like I could get up in the morning without an alarm clock, and we could work till 2, 3 in the morning on occasion because it was something that we wanted to do because we wanted to be the best. So it also reminds me of one of my favorite books, Good to Great by Jim Collins, where if you don't know that book, he studied many, many companies in different industries and compared a good one to a great one, a good one to a great one, and what made the difference. And there's so many great teachings in that book, but the one that pops into my head right now is just one of the best quotes of all time, to me anyway. He said, good is the enemy of great. And it's just so funny. We even did a character about this years ago in A View from the Edge, because I think everybody, including the way I used to look at it, says, here's good, keep going, you'll get the great.
Right.
But now, after really analyzing what Jim Collins was saying about this, I think good is over here and great is over here. It's not even, it's in the opposite direction.
Yeah, it's too different.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and good is what most people are okay with. And again, I'm not saying that that's bad.
Yeah.
We talked about when you're all in, when you're really all in, good is not good enough. It's unacceptable, as a matter of fact. Go back to my guy, Nick Saban. I know we've done a show about Nick, but high achievers don't like mediocre people, and mediocre people don't like high achievers.
Right.
So if you're going to be all in, you're going to automatically be in the high achiever club. If you're going to be all in, you're going to look at the scoreboard. It's not that it doesn't matter if we win or lose, it's how we play the game. That is not how a all-in high achiever looks at things.
Right.
That's why we have the scoreboard. That's actually the only thing that matters. So if you look at it like good is the enemy of great, and great means, you push it. Now, by the way, great is not perfect.
Yeah.
So the people who are perfectionists, forget about perfection. Tiger Woods was great beyond words, but he wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
He lost tournaments. Michael Jordan was great, but he wasn't perfect. So that's not what we're striving for. You're going to lose. You're going to have bad days. You're going to have off years. But overall, if your focus is to be the best that you can humanly possibly be, then you do that. So you again, I don't want to keep saying the phrase all in over and over and over again, but it's like you're fully committed. That's what I would say. What were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that, with the all in, it also, it kind of transcends and goes in any direction. If you want to go all in as far as being a dad, all in your marriage, all in spiritually, all in any of that. Like, you could put all your focus into that, into being an awesome dad, being a great dad, all in physically. Hey, I mean, you pick your category where you want to be all in, and, it's kind of the same principles apply to it.
I love that you said that, because that's ironically where I wanted to segue to, because, here we call this show the 4 pillars, right? So in our philosophy, what we believe in is that, you've got your financial life, which a lot of what I've been talking about up till now is about that.
Yeah.
So you have financial, but you also have physical, you also have spiritual, and you also have social. So all of those things matter. So how can you be all in with all of them? And I would say you're probably going to have one as your primary focus, that you're fully committed to. But you could also, what if you were for 5 years, financial was your main focus? You didn't ignore the others. You should never ignore them. You need to have boundaries. You can't go to get rich and ignore your family. I promise that they'll resent you for the rest of their lives. That's a terrible idea. You can't go all in for business and die of a heart attack because you totally neglected physical. You certainly don't want to neglect your spiritual life. But this is what I've always said. If you go all in on the financial first, and you get to where money isn't a big deal in your life, where you've invested properly, and especially if you have a residual income, or if you sold a business or something, you really literally don't need to work. Well, think about it. Now for a couple of years, you switch your focus completely, or your main focus, not completely, to physical. Then when you get yourself in great shape, now you switch to spiritual. Then you switch to, it's like, so you're allowed to switch your focus from time to time. But here's the thing that people don't understand. I think a best analogy is like if you're trying to get in shape. Okay, you go to the gym a lot, I go to the gym a lot. Now, neither one of us is in incredible physical shape, but we're pretty good. And the deal, though, is if you look at the guy or the gal who is in incredible physical shape.
They're there.
Well, here's the thing, though. It's like, they're there every day, but I think some people think that they're there every day for 8 hours, and that's definitely not the case. They're there every day for 90 minutes. Now, when they're there for their 90 minutes, they're not walking around and chit-chat. They are focused on what they're doing.
They're not scrolling.
They're not scrolling. They're not messing around. They're in. Maybe, let's just say for fun, they're there for 2 hours. So if they're there for 2 hours, and let's say they're there 7 days a week, that's 14 hours. Now, if you want to carve out another 10 hours of meal prep and all that stuff, so now we're talking 25 hours a week to be all in on physical. You know what I mean? So it's not like you, in order to be all in one of these areas, it's not like you have to spend all day every day. If you're going to be all in raising your kids and being a great parent, Yeah, you're going to be at every school play. Yes, you're going to make breakfast in the morning and chat with them and drive them to school. You're going to spend, but it's not like you're spending 100 hours a week doing it. So it's possible to do two of these things at one time. But again, I think the all-in thing is more of a mindset. It's more of I am going to be excellent in this area.
Right.
And if you're
it's a discipline.
Yeah.
Like it's just a discipline, like where it's like you just it happens. Like there's no obstructions. There's no, let me just try it for a little bit. You're disciplined and you just go out and you do it, with whatever, of the 4 categories or whatever you're focusing on.
Yeah. And it goes down to, like you said, discipline. I think, we started off this show talking about, it's February 2nd and already a lot of people have given up. And it's because it's one of my favorite things to talk about. People make a decision like that in an elevated state of mind, but then that elevated state of mind goes away. Zig Ziglar, my hero. Jim Rohn is Stavros and George's hero, but I love Zig Ziglar. And Zig Ziglar said, motivation doesn't last. So it's great to make a decision in an elevated state of mind. The problem is the execution, which is ultimately the only thing that matters, comes when you're out of that elevated state of mind. So that's where discipline comes in and developing habits comes in. But, if you understand that and you're just like, look, I'm going to do this today, even though I don't feel like it. Like lots of times, yes, I'm excited to get up early in the morning and take the kids to school, but sometimes I don't feel like it. But if that's your focus, I look at my wife and she's focused on being an excellent mom. And for real, like it really doesn't matter what the sacrifice is. And it doesn't matter if she's tired or whatever. That's her commitment to excellence. You know what I mean? That's definitely... I parent in a different way. And I'm sure like dads, even the most committed dad is probably second place compared to mom.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I think in a lot of situations that's the case. Sure. But, on the other hand, when it comes to earning money, there's moms that are super committed there. There's a lot of times I think the guy feels like it's more his responsibility to be the primary breadwinner.
Yeah, provide things like that.
Yeah, guys like to provide. And I know that's not the way it is all the time. But, what it boils down to is, again, pick what turns you on. Pick what gets you excited. Because ultimately, to have the discipline and the stamina to go the distance, because that's what we talked about in the beginning, it's a long-term thing. All in, you got to look at it long-term. So that's why, the deal. The first 3 things I learned from my mentor were pay attention, get excited, never quit. Yep. So let's ignore pay attention, get excited right now. They're both very important. Talk about it another time. But never quit means never. No. Like never. So for people who can't fathom never quit, that's where he came up with the 5-year plan. So I try to get people to go, look, you just do this until it works. You just never stop. You just keep going until it works. And like there is nothing other than winning is an option. Yeah. But at least if you're willing to give it 5 years, it's the people who come in and go, well, I'll give this a couple of months and see how it works. Or I'll give this a year and see how it works. Like, honestly, I just tell them, what, don't do it. Yeah. Because nothing of greatness comes quickly or easily. Yep. It's going to take time. We all go through the stages of learning where we're unconsciously incompetent, then we're consciously incompetent. We eventually get to consciously competent. And last but not least, we become unconsciously competent, but it doesn't happen overnight. Malcolm Gladwell, Outliers. You want to be great at what you're doing? It's going to take 10,000 hours. So, you got to pick something. And you gotta, if you're gonna say I'm all in, you gotta look at it for the long haul. It can't just be for a short period of time. You can't be like a comet burning out. Being all in for a week, being all in for a month isn't gonna get you anywhere. Right. To me, it's like one of my favorite analogies. Whatever you're doing, you're trying to get great results. You're pushing a car up a hill. So you're gonna do it for a while because the minute you let up, the car goes all the way down the bottom of the hill. So
start all over again.
Yeah. So speaking of starting all over again, maybe it's a good place to wrap up so we can start all over again and do another podcast next week.
Oh, yeah. Check it out, guys. The Four Pillars. We'll see you next time.